I didn't notice. At first I didn't notice what was going on. I don't actually know when it started. They weren't intrusive, and I suppose you have to know what to look for. The first time I should have noticed was one evening in June. I think. I was in a pub with some friends and Shona. Well, I was with Shona and she brought the friends. I was mouthing off about something, showing off, I suppose. Cut little ice with Shona. She knows me too well. Anyway, there was a man there generally flashing his money around, buying drinks for the ladies. Well, no, he bought a drink for Shona. I don't actually remember seeing him until then. He was chatting her up and she was going with it. When he asked her out, she said, yes. He was reasonably good-looking and he had cash, which are good enough reasons. Perhaps. Nothing to do with me, of course. Next day he took her to a nice restaurant. They had a bit to drink, went to his hotel. He was in town on business, that's what he said. They sat up talking, and I remember she told me she thought he really cared. She told me more than I wanted to hear. What he really wanted to know was who were her friends, and me, which didn't seem strange at the time and wouldn't now, except, well, alarm bells didn't ring till much later. When the post came late, when the phone line was bad, when I noticed faces, the same faces again and again, still nothing registered, until the day the police came to question me. I remember the officer being very polite, very calm, collected and polite, and underneath all that, extremely threatening. The questions, he said, were routine, but he couldn't tell me what the questions were in connection with. He asked me if I'd ever been to various places I've never been to, mosques, mostly. His questions then got more personal, so I shut down on him. That's when I was brought in. I'd refused to go to the station to assist with inquiries, so he flatly arrested me there and then. That was when I got my first taste of procedures, the forms, and the noise of cells. They interrogated me a few times. No, they didn't. The police don't interrogate you, they talk at you roughly, and I reacted badly to it. I got self-righteous and refused to speak. I had no real idea what was happening to me or why it was happening, except for one clue. The police wanted to know about a bag. I said I didn't know anything about a bag, or that is, I didn't know anything specific about a bag. I know bags. Bags are bags. I have some. But this bag was special and I didn't understand, so I denied everything. After I signed a statement to that effect, they said they wanted me to go with them. I wasn't released, just bundled into a police car and driven out to my home. The house was filled with people walking in and out with boxes of my stuff, cameras photographing every surface, and all I remember thinking was, muddy boots. They didn't bother to wipe their feet on the way in. They were ruining my home, and it was that intrusion, not the one on my body, the one on my home, that drew my fury. They were crashing through me, and they didn't care. I snapped and ran at the nearest man with a box. That is mine, I said. I tried to wrestle it off him, and that was when they pulled the guns out. I'd never seen a gun before, so when I had several thrust into my face, I didn't know how to react. They were all shouting orders at me, instructions to do this, that, the other. I didn't notice. I wasn't listening to instruction. Every conscious part of me was screaming inside they could wipe their bloody feet. I just stared at the barrel of the nearest gun they could have shot me. I stared so long. Next thing I know, I'm being manhandled and handcuffed and dragged out of the drive into a van. Fuzzy. Unprepared and confused, I travelled a long time and ended up somewhere. My first interrogation. They took my clothes, they shaved my head, I was shouted at non-stop, forced to do sit-ups, press-ups, star jumps. I hadn't done star jumps in school, and I wasn't very fit, so I wore out quick. They let me have water, but they didn't offer me a toilet, so after a while I wet myself. They kept the orders up for I don't know how long. They wouldn't listen to my pleas, requests. The more I said, the more came right back at me. I asked for my rights. They said, "You have no rights." You have no rights. Of course I have rights. Of course I do. Rights come as standard. They're part of the package. Good looks and big muscles you pay extra for, but humanity is a given. And they took that away. It took me a long time to believe that they were right, that I had no rights, no legal help, no support, no friends, no white horse to carry me away. Who knew where I was? Who knew what they could do? Interrogators changed almost hourly. Their styles were different, but they were all the same. In between the psychology, we got the physical work over, little or no sleep, changing temperatures. It builds till whatever resistance you have is gone, and you just want it to end. I told them everything. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know what they wanted. They wouldn't tell me. They weren't even allowed to tell me. It's in the rules. So they asked me about people I've never met and places I've never been, and we played Let's Pretend. I was good at that. Too good sometimes, and then they punished me. My pretending had to be real, and by the time I left there, it was. Then, towards the end, the system changed, and I had a different interrogator. A man came in and started asking me questions about a bag. The bag I said I knew nothing about, and I said what I'd said, thinking, have we met? Have we met before? Somewhere. He acted like my friend, like he knew me, and he smiled all the time. How are we feeling today? Tired, I imagine. Well, exercise is good for you. Myself, I always take a bit of a run in the morning. Does me good, does you good too. Builds up an appetite for dinner. Do make yourself comfortable. Do you read much? Of course you do. Reading broadens the mind. I'm a great reader. Stories fascinate me. Myths, legends, comic strips even. A narrative of any kind will keep me going. And you have quite a story. I've read the files and I've listened to the tapes. I know you backwards. I was sitting in the garden the other day listening to the test match and reading your file. The evaluation team has taken great care and thought into you and your case. But I do have just a few questions about this statement you made. It's all very straightforward. Think of me as a clerk. I'll read the statement too. Well, not all of it, just this bit will do. I have no knowledge of any bag besides my own. Now that is an odd statement. I have no knowledge of any bag besides my own. It just jumps out of the blue. No one else mentions a bag here. It's all about places you've been and gone to. But here is that statement. And you wouldn't lie about a thing like that, would you? You're not a liar. You've said it on the 23rd and the 24th and the 25th and, well, every day we've spoken to you. So what confuses me is that you should lie about a bag. You did see a bag. You've seen lots of bags, of course, but you've also seen the bag. And when we went through your house, we found your notebooks and a whole section on a bag that wasn't yours, that you saw at a bus stop. So one of these is a lie. And as you wrote both of them, that makes you a liar, surely. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to get the truth. I want to know what you know about the bag. Shall I read you what you wrote? I'm sitting at a bus stop. There are 4 bags to my left, 3 are plastic carriers, and another is a child's rucksack. It's really sweet, all bright colours. I wonder why a child would leave it behind there. And inside the bag there could be many prized possessions, a doll, a cuddly toy, a game, a book even. Or it could be a bomb. So, what made you think that? You don't know. Or it could be a bomb. Seems a very definite conclusion to come to. I'll read on. I can't see anyone around. There are no takers. It is an unclaimed bag. It could be a bomb, but I'm still sitting here. It could explode now. This bomb, this hypothetical bomb, if it's real, it might go off. If it's real, I might die. If I can't see a bomb, does it exist? If I open the bag, will it explode or will a cat get out? You didn't just see a bag, you held a debate with it. What you don't seem to appreciate is that the bag you debated with was a bomb. What you don't seem to appreciate is that your debate killed people. What you don't seem to realize is that we think you had something more to do with it. So stop mucking about and tell us precisely what you remember. I remember there was a bag. You're always talking about it. No, you're always talking about the bag. I was staring at it a long time ago. I was staring at the bag in the bus shelter. It wasn't warm or cold. The day was ordinary, and I was half sitting, waiting for a bus to take me home. To my left were 3 white plastic carrier bags. Someone shopping, I supposed. And then there's a child's bag. It's blue and red and yellow. A rucksack nestled in amongst the white carriers. Roy's, I think, not Tesco. There was a magazine and a cucumber. Was there a cucumber? Have I mentioned that before? If I forgot to mention it before, that's okay, isn't it? If I say there was one and there wasn't, you'll use it against me, won't you? If I can lie to you about a cucumber, then I can lie to you about bombs, can't I? I assume it's bombs. I don't actually know because you don't tell me anything. But it only takes one inconsistency for you to question everything again. Why do you keep expecting my life, my memory to be consistent? I don't expect to remember the past as it was, really. We wear rose-tinted spectacles, don't we? I'm sorry, I'm breaking the golden rule. The others told me, don't get noticed. If you notice me, you hurt me. I'm not here. Okay. One of the others was telling me, don't get angry. He said, well, it's easier to say that than to put it into practice. I mean, I'm seething with it, you see. But I keep it underneath the surface, calm, focus. What am I angry about? Well, I'm here. Aren't I? I mean, what have I done to deserve this? Who am I to fit into your remit? No, I'm not angry at that. It isn't that I don't fit into your remit. You don't have one. Do you know me? Do you know anything about me except that you can use against me? I had a life. I remember it. I remember when the worst thing I had to worry about was a bad cold or train delays. Do you know what I'd be doing now if I wasn't here? Anything. That's what? If this were a normal day, I'd probably be having a cup of tea by now. A cup of tea, hot, strong, with a dollop of milk. Tea! Instead, I'm here, and I'm angry, and I think I'm not going to cooperate today. I will fight you, and I will win just for today. You want a fight? I'll give you a fight. You think you've noticed me yet? I wouldn't want to go unnoticed! No light. For a week they took away the lights, then they filled my room with white noise, white on black. I had days of drilling, no sleep if they had their way, forced marches, a stretch in the hot cell, a stretch in the cold cell. I say a week, I say days. I didn't know anymore. I didn't know what time it was. I imagined I could hear the ticking of a clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. That didn't help, just made it worse. I decided it was dinner time, lunchtime, breakfast. I always sectioned time off by food because I didn't know how long it had been since I ate last. I mean, sometimes I hallucinated or dreamt. I couldn't tell the difference. Sometimes I dreamt that Shona had come to comfort me or shout at me for being weak, but how could I be anything else when they had the power to take away the sun? Quiet now. Listen to me. Focus. I'm not here to hurt you, not like the others. I'm here to make a bargain. You've been through a lot, I know that, and we don't want to do this anymore. There's an easier way for both of us. I've got some good news. I got a memo today about you. Would you like to hear it? The subject, that's you, produces only low-grade material and has proved to be of minimal risk to the security of the nation. It would be acceptable for the subject to be released under restriction, though the case officer, that's me, must prove that the subject has given the authorities all the information he knows. There. The news you've been waiting for. You're going home. Well, you might smile. You've had that terse look on your face since I got here. I thought when I came that'll change. When he hears this, he'll smile when he knows his suffering is all over. That would be the polite thing to do after I've gone to all this trouble. That would be the civil thing to do. Courtesy costs nothing and will get you places. It's how I got to be where I am. Don't take that tone with me. I've been in the services for a few years now, and I've not only seen and heard things, I have felt them. I've been worked over by some of the most practiced men in Europe, and you call your treatment here torture? We feed you, clothe you, we even allow you special privileges. The odd kick and having to pee in your pants is hardly torture. You think that compares with what would happen to you if we sent you elsewhere? Well, this place is a picnic compared with some of the facilities run by friendlier countries. This institution is watched by the media, by human rights. Not completely, of course, but enough. If I really wanted to hurt you, I would have you sent to people and places where they have no qualms in torturing lying terrorists because it might upset the ignorant masses. And yes, I know you're not a terrorist. I know that. But they wouldn't. I don't need to prove you're involved in terrorism, only that you can't prove that you're not. The burden of proof is on you. Prove you weren't planning anything. Well, of course you can't. That's the point. That's why you need a friend, someone like me. I'm here to help. Believe it or not, we're all here to help. We're just following procedure, which leads us to your release. As the memo mentions, there are conditions. Without some assurances from you, some names, some kind of solid confession, then I can't let you go. They won't let me. The thing about your file is, well, I don't think it's interesting enough. Now, if there isn't a little bit of evil, the people at the top will think we made a mistake about you. So I want us to play a game, a harmless little game. You can play a game, can't you? We all play it here. It's our departmental game. Let's pretend. That's all it is. We call it our fantasy league, and you'll be introduced as another in our proud ranks, our proud and daily growing ranks. I think you must have been working for the enemy. Oh, yes, you were. Oh, yes, you were. I mean, how else are we going to explain your behavior? Yes, I know what you're going to say. You're innocent. This is all unfair. But is that plausible for the folks upstairs? I mean, really? So, we play this game, and all your problems will be over. So, you're working for the enemy. Go from there. I know it's difficult to start at first, but once you get going, you won't be able to stop yourself. I'll just ask the questions, and you answer with the first thing that comes into your head. Let's pretend you are a murderer, a killer. Tell me what you want to do, killer. Tell me how you want to do it, and why you want to do it. Fantasize about killing and enjoying it. It's okay, because it isn't real. It's a fantasy. You're only a fantasy terrorist. You're a good person, really. Now, tell me about the bomb. Guilty. I planted the bomb. Guilty. I planted the bomb that blew up the bus shelter. That was nothing. That was just the start of a whole campaign. I had to do it. I had to. Why? The world's unclean. Look on the internet and you can see it. The filth. So I decided it was time to make a stand. I ordered a small batch of explosives. I once worked for a fireworks company, so it wasn't difficult. The timer was an old alarm clock. I hated that alarm clock. It made such an annoying beep when the alarm went off, though not that time. But it wasn't enough. I needed followers. I couldn't do it alone. I remembered how I was persuaded to the cause. It was at university. One of my housemates was ex-military. He had the right ideas. Even followed them through. One night he told me about some of the things he'd done. He was drunk and tired, and told me how he once killed people, even women. The The excitement he felt, the belief he had. I wanted to persuade others, so I started to look for the right recruits amongst children, the right kind being the weak kinds, the easily led. I wanted to strap bombs to them and watch them pop. I blew up the bus station because I blew up the bus station because I blew up the bus station because I like explosions, because I like killing, because I want to go home, and because I can't stand this anymore. Who do you want me to have killed? Who should I have planned to murder? Who do you want me to remember plotting with? Tell me and I'll tell you. Tell me and I'll tell you everything you say. Excellent statement. That's excellent. Now you're one of us. One of the League. There's just one thing wrong with your statement. It's a minor thing, I'm sure, but I can't quite understand why you would admit to blowing up a bus shelter. That is still there. There wasn't a bomb. I didn't say it had been blown up, did I? What you got to remember is that if you intended to blow the bus shelter up, as you stated, then that's as good as having done so. A monster. You think I'm a monster? You said you liked explosions. You said you intended to kill children. I didn't say it. You did. Remember? Of course you remember. You remember it all. There go those eyes again. But I suppose I'll have to live with them. What's wrong? You're going to be let out soon, aren't you? It's all in a good cause, even if you feel it wasn't in your best cause. Okay. So we were wrong about you. But what about all those who deserve to be in here? The world is a better place without them. Your sacrifice has made the world a better place. You can be proud of that. You can tell your children that you are part of the great crusade against evil, and in the new year, you'll be free. Yes, the new year. I know you want to be free now, I understand that, but we have to wait. There are others being freed with you, and they'll take longer to clear. And besides, we want you to get your strength up. Let the bruises heal. It's important to us that you are more presentable. So, savor that thought. In the new year, you'll be completely free. No, I won't lie to you. You won't be completely free. There's no such thing as absolute freedom, and it is important the public don't see us letting several terrorists just walk free. I mean, the world doesn't work that way. But after time, it'll be fine for you, so long as you give us certain assurances. Assurances that you won't talk to the wrong people, to any people, about what has happened to you here. Ironic, isn't it? All this time we've been trying to get you to talk, and now we want you to shut up, to keep silent and not embarrass people who are not responsible for your treatment here. If you speak, your friends and family will suffer problems, inconveniences we call them, and I wouldn't want your Fantasy League confession leaked to the newspapers or used to put you back here, destined never to leave again until you are old, grey, and or dead. No one wants to leave here feet first. Freedom for silence. It's a good deal. It's the best deal you're gonna get. He handed me a piece of paper, and I signed. When you're alone in a cell for a crime you don't know, and all you've got is one thing to think about, you rewrite your memories. So a bag, one of the most everyday objects in the world, became important. I started to wonder, did I plant it? Happily for my sanity, common sense usually saved me from thinking that were true, but as I was in the cell, perhaps I was guilty of something. Perhaps the universe was punishing me for something else. Perhaps I was guilty because I didn't do anything. I thought it was a bomb, so I should have called the police. By leaving it, I was as guilty of murder as the bomber, if it was a bomb. But in there I had to assume it did happen, and that thought tugged at me. Perhaps I'd killed them in effect, if not intent, and what about everything else I could feel guilty for? All the donations I'd never made, all the demonstrations I'd never joined, all the jokes and the put-downs I'd said against anyone. It was a purge of every small mistake, every minor offence, the doors I hadn't held open, the angry words, the careless gestures. Shona. Perhaps it was her. I had hurt her, and she had hurt me, and I hadn't seen her in How long? I mean, where was she? Who was she with? Was she still with that man from the pub? And I remembered him in the pub, in the cell, in the pub, in the cell, smiling. If that was it, I would never get out. And what about my family, who I'd taken for granted, and the hope I'd see them at least once more? 5 minutes was all I wanted. I was on my knees begging, praying to deities I didn't believe in to give me back my life, or just a part of it. And before I knew it, I was going through the system, through the bureaucratic hoops, and then sent home. What did I do? What was the first thing I did? Slept. The next day I was surrounded by family, no friends. It was very awkward, as if they weren't sure of me. Then I cleaned the house. I vacuumed a lot, dusted, rearranged books. It was my home. I'd got what I wanted. I was back home. Only it wasn't my home anymore. I could sense how they'd been through everything, how they'd shifted and moved things, so I took it all apart, ransacked the place. Mine again, I thought, but it wasn't, because they were still there. Okay, so they weren't walking across my carpet anymore, but they walked across the walls instead. They breathed my air, and they rummaged through my dreams, and of course, I couldn't leave. Oh, officially I could go as far as my curfew would allow, but even to the shops I didn't like the looks I got. I'd swapped one prison for another, only this one was at least well furnished. But though I couldn't go out, use the internet, contact certain people, I had to wear a tag. I was as free as a bird. I wrote letters to my MP, to the press, others. Of course, press interest was non-existent. I was a bit dull. My life was a bit dull, that is, no real story there. Then, after leaving so many messages, Shona came to visit me. "Hi, it's me," she said. I wanted to tell her about everything, but I couldn't, not just because it was all too close, but she told me. Well, I asked her if she was still seeing that man. They were engaged, apparently. And I didn't have the heart. I'm innocent, I told her. I did tell her that. "I know," she said, and then she kissed me on the cheek and left. I knew he'd been watching me, but I wasn't sure if it was enough. The only way to get him to come was to make a fuss, enough so that I would have to face some kind of special punishment. Well, they wanted a terrorist, and I saw no reason why they shouldn't have one. So an act of wanton violence was in order, and the first thing to see my angry side was my security tag. Between that and Shona's visit, I got his attention. He came over within hours, but the smile was strained. Strange to see you in a domestic setting. I do hope we can be friends now that you're out. I'm a part of your life now. Though that can change. Perhaps you're afraid of me. I love interpretation. Interpretation, it's such a nice word, because interpretation leads to anything. I can interpret your frown as concentration on my words. I can interpret your silence as recognition that you're afraid of me. Our interpretation of you is rather fine, don't you think? I went through your house with a fine tooth comb when we took you in, looking for something sinister. You've redecorated. Not surprised the way we crashed through the place. I loved your books. You're proud of your books, aren't you? You can display them to the world and show everyone how intelligent you are. But what about the books behind the books? And the magazines? Oh, come on, I'm not your mother. You have porn, that's okay. Besides, we dismissed sexual aberration from our interpretation of you. Perhaps you have problems with women. Not that you'll be seeing many, I imagine, and then we'd know, of course. Like we know what you had for breakfast and what you said in your sleep. You whispered it ever so gently. Shona. She came round, didn't she? We wondered why. Let's not get caught out by the pleasantries. I'm here with a warning. Shona isn't yours anymore. That door has closed unless you want a real cell to surround you again. And don't scratch too hard. You tried to take the tag off. We know you tried, and you failed, as you will always fail. You broke it. Deliberate, naughty, you are tagged for a reason, and we cannot just let you play about with it. It's an expensive item. You break it, you pay for it. But why did Shona come? I know what she said, of course, I know what she said, but I want to know why. She said she never wanted to see you again. She said she hated you, so why did she come? I know her, you see? I know how she thinks. If you touch her, I will know. I can hear you, I can see you, I could syndicate your life and broadcast it across the world, so don't think for a moment you are free to touch her. Touch yourself. You've got the material. No, you can't go yet. No, not yet. I'd like to say something. I've wanted to see you ever since I came out. I forgive you. You see, thanks to your efforts, I've seen a new way to live my life. The struggle you put me through, continue to put me through, has brought me nearer to God. You have put everything into proportion. We're all going to die. Thank you. No, you can't go yet. No, not yet. I may be out, I may be trapped here, you may have come here to continue our little chats, but that doesn't mean you can just waltz in and out again. At least have some tea. I've been working on this little speech for months now, trying to find ways to tell you what I've got to tell you and explode the odd myth. It took me a while to decide not what to do at this moment, but how to do it. I had to make choices, and it all came back to a bag. You remember the bag? Sitting all alone in that bus shelter, that there could have been anything inside it. I could choose. But if you were there, what would you have chosen? Think for a moment. Think what could have been in that bag. Perhaps you would choose something mundane, something fantastic, something tiny or huge, something beautiful or obscene, some unknown, shapeless horror. Visualize your choice. Ah, a bomb. Yes, how original. I chose a bomb too, but you know that. You used that assumption against me. I wonder whether you've ever thought what it is like to be at the epicenter of a bomb blast, to feel the waves of expanding gas and shrapnel tearing you apart, leaving only fragments to be found, most of which are no larger than a matchbox. I mused about that bag as a possibility, but you didn't muse about the threat I posed. You chose me randomly or for some other person I know not, and clutched at the first instrument to hand, my notes. Whereas I assumed they were nothing of import and caught the bus and went home. You tortured me. Now, we all know that any bag could be a bomb. From the outside it could be anything, but I wouldn't assume, because that bag at that bus stop wasn't a bomb, that this bag in this room isn't. Because it is. And I know that, of course, because I put it here. This bag I'm holding contains a bomb. And if it works, we're both going to die. And I have you to thank for it. If you hadn't shown me the way, then I could never do this. If you hadn't taken everything I care about in my life, I wouldn't dare give it up, but I have nothing left. Thank you. Thank you. Just to put you in proportion, I should add, we're all going to die eventually, just that some of us will be dying a little earlier than we planned. Perhaps I'm bluffing. I wouldn't advise you to move, though. For all you know, the bomb might be motion sensitive. It could be designed to explode on the sounding of a single word. Flange. Buttercup. Love. So while you're asking yourself, why do I want to blow you up? You're Also probably asking yourself how you can get to the nearest exit, but that's by the by. Why do I want to blow you up? That's right, revenge, and something more. I want you to understand. You're so knowledgeable, so clever. You always had answers, didn't you? You could look at the suffering you caused and rationalise it and distance it and poke fun at it, and I can't have that. I don't bluff, mister. Of course I didn't make it. You've been watching me, remember? Oh, haven't you figured it out? She brought it for me. Shona, she used to work in the same fireworks company as I did. You remember, that was in my fantasy confession. This bag is very small. Not much volume to create a really good explosion, but it should do the trick here. And if it doesn't kill you, I imagine the burns should be quite horrific. No more chatting up girls in pubs. That's it, isn't it? That really is pathetic. Or perhaps it was so easy, perhaps that is the pathetic thing. So, we reached the end of our little chat. Time's up. You know, there is something beautiful about an explosion. The flame, the smoke, the impact and the smell, the thrill of anticipation and danger when you know it is so close, waiting for the bright light to burst, knowing that it will come but unsure of the moment, drinking in the expectation. Scale is all that matters. But I'll settle for the look on your face. Of course, the bag's empty. I couldn't kill anyone. Not then. And not now. I'm just a fantasy, remember? I'm just a fantasy terrorist. I'm a good person, really.